Okay, so it's my pleasure to finally bring you the last round game that I played in the class championships this past January. I'm going to go ahead and skip my fourth round game. That was against William Ree, and I played pretty aggressively for a draw, and it really wasn't that exciting of a game. The pieces basically got exchanged, and we entered a 2 rooks and a king versus 2 rooks and a king endgame with some pawns, and I was able to get the draw. But anyway, going to this last round, this is my game against Tom Mannion. It's the first time I'd ever played Tom. And it was kind of a fun game. I started off with knight to f3, and he responded with b5. And right away I was kind of reminded of my first tournament that I ever played in. In the third round of that tournament, I played against Kevin Jackson, and he'd actually played g4 after I'd played. Actually, I guess he was white, so he played g4, and I was like, wow, what is this? The Grob, whatever. Since then I've studied that opening, so I think I handled his opening pretty well. And actually following this game, Tom told me that he was unhappy with his opening choice based on how I played against it. So essentially I just play my pawn forward 1 square and introduce an attack on his pawn without allowing an attack on my pawn. If I played e4, then Tom would have had the option then to play his bishop out to b7. And this would be kind of similar again with ideas in the Grob, where you allow maybe white to capture the b pawn, and then black is then, in this case, going to be able to capture the e pawn, and giving a pawn on the edge of the board for a pawn in the center of the board would be preferable. But with my move e3, I take away the possibility of playing bishop to b7, because of course he doesn't have a target on e4. So he plays a6, and now he's made 2 moves on the side of the board. He's no closer to castling. So already I'm feeling a little bit happy about this game. He's got a presence on that side of the board. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to force him to move those pawns again. So I play a4. He can't make a move like c6 here, because if he does play c6, I can play pawn takes pawn, he plays pawn takes pawn, and then when my bishop captures that pawn, my rook will be looking through his other pawn at his rook, so he won't be able to recapture. So essentially that would lose a pawn. So now he's got to push a pawn again. So you can kind of see how the choice of opening he has so far is kind of forced him to make these moves so far, which I don't think are improving his position at all. He's moved those 2 pawns only in the opening. I now have both my center pawns moved forward, my knight's developed, and he might even have a weakness temporarily on b4. But anyway, let's keep playing through the game. So bishop out, just continue to develop. Nothing really to talk about yet. And we'll talk about a move I make in a minute. Right here, I push past. If you find yourself in a similar position in the future, I'd actually recommend now, instead of pushing past like I did, to actually go ahead and capture here. The reason I would encourage you to make this capture is that that pawn on c7, then you'll be able to pile up on that, and that'll be a nice weakness in the position. So I believe that this is a place where I went wrong in the game. Instead of playing c5, I think I should have played c takes d5 and created that weakness, and then use that to have a bit more of an advantage than I had in the game. So I went ahead and threatened to fork his 2 pieces, and he just plays c6, a natural way to respond to that. And at this moment in the game, I noticed that this pawn, cancel, this pawn here looked rather weak. There's no real pieces except for the queen defending it, so I began to maneuver my pieces to attack that pawn. Got the bishop dropping back, and he kind of has to resign to the fact that he can't get pieces to guard that pawn, so we're seeing now I'm getting a bit of an advantage here, and he plays e5 to maybe try not to allow me to win that pawn outright, but we'll see how this works out here. At this moment I just go ahead and capture the pawn, and now he threatens mate. So I play f4 to stop that threat. Bishop retreats and rook to f3. So you can kind of see how black's pieces on the queen side here, the undeveloped knight on b8 and the rook on a8, this is the kind of thing you can expect when you play a flank opening, and your opponent maybe knows how to play against it. Doesn't allow you to get the easy and quick development. I mean, that part of the idea of his opening initially was to have that bishop looking at the light square bishop, that is, looking at some nice squares and having good targets, and now it's just hemmed in by its own pawns, with my pawn blockading those pawns. So he goes to look at the opposite direction for that bishop. I'll just keep playing through a few more moves here. I don't really see anything too exciting to talk about yet. We're just playing through some moves. I use my queen as a blockader, which queen is the worst piece to blockade a pawn with, but in the absence of knights on the board, being that we have bishop's opposite color, my queen will be able to successfully blockade that pawn for now. He'd have to use like a rook or something to dislodge it, but anyway, in this particular position it's not as bad to use that queen as it would be if he had a knight, like I said. So Let's play through a few more moves here. So he's got this annoying pressure on the light squares there on the coming off the queen side with that queen and bishop, and it's not exactly clear if I have an advantage at all at this point, so we're just playing through some moves. And now I go ahead and come up with an idea that I'm going to play g4, and my idea is going to actually be to bring my rook onto that file, the g file that is, and then I'm supposed to retreat my king to h1 in a minute, but I don't. When he checks me here, I should have retreated to h1. My advantage in the game would be extraordinarily high if I just went to king h1, but for some reason I saw a ghost here, and during the game I thought for some reason that his queen would have this check on f3, so I played king to g1, but now I actually lose time in my attack, and I shouldn't have done this. So I'll play through a few more moves here. I allow him to take that pawn, threaten his queen, and actually here he's completely lost. I don't know if you see the move or not, but there's a problem that black's about to have in this game after that queen retreated, and the idea is that when my queen goes to g2 right now, it's unstoppable. He could try to deflect my pieces or slow it down a little bit, but basically the mate that happens in this game was going to happen pretty much no matter what he did. He could have resigned here. I think he even saw it during the game, and I know he was frustrated because he played a fairly good game to this point, and with bishops opposite color, I don't think he was expecting to have an attack like this come out of almost nowhere like it did. So he plays his bishop down. I go ahead and play this check. Now the problem is that black's rook can't take my rook because then the queen would mate, and when his king retreated like it did in the game, I can simply play rook takes rook, and that's checkmate. And that's the way the game finished. And this was the last game again in the class championships for me, and it helped me go from 1962 to 1975 with my performance at 3.5 points out of a possible 5 for the tournament. So I was happy with this result. I look forward to playing in a tournament again soon. Happy to have you check out my blog spot, and look forward to maybe seeing some of your games if you want to share some of those with me and give me a chance to annotate them. Hope you have a great day. Take care.